Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, another game of interplanetary I Spy going on here, and we have two images to look at today, both from Mars, but from two different rovers. This one here is from the Opportunity rover, which is now broken down. It broke down a while ago. Basically, there was a big storm and it got covered in dust and apparently went offline because obviously it's got solar panels. But there's this interesting image with this mound here in the foreground. And there's also this image with this thing up in the background here, which looks rather interesting. Now this is the colour image from the Curiosity rover, and this is from Sol 1454. So links will be below to all these things I'm showing you. And if I show any images and clips of video during this video, I will put links to them at the end of the video. There will be some card links at the end, okay? Right at the end of the video. Now, both these things were found by Terry Burnett recently, as far as we know, and so full credit to Terry for these finds. I've got his clips up here. There's this one. This is that mound I just showed you, the one that's in black and white. There's this thing on the mound. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And now I've gone in a bit closer and I managed to drag a bit more detail out of that. But it's a good find. And as it was this. Now I did notice this when he found it originally, but I couldn't remember when it was, so I got hold of him and he showed me a clip of it when he originally posted it. I think it was last year, in 2018, he spotted this. I'll show you a clip of that in a minute. And there's some other similar things that he's found, which I'll also come back to in a minute as well. And there are some comparative images of similar objects. Now, obviously, most of these things are rocks in this area, as with all of Mars, and shattered objects. Now, some of these objects are very similar to each other, and in fact, are not all just rocks, as I have demonstrated many times before, and a few other channels have as well. So let me show you the folders I've got, and I'll show you the clips, and then we'll backtrack a bit. And I'll show you what else Terry's found recently. So this is kind of a Terry Burnett tribute video, I should say, in a way, because all these finds are going to be from him mostly today. So here we are. Here's the clip. Now, let me show you the raw image first. Here it is. Not amazing quality. It's very dark, as they often are. And we have this mound here covered in rocks. Big rock here, and then the one we're looking at is this one. Now you've got to really let your eyes adjust to this because it's very dark, but it's there, and unfortunately the shadows are making it difficult to see, so you've got to brighten this up, take a clip and brighten it like I've done here. That's been brightened up quite a lot, and now you can see it. And I'll let you look at that for a second. Right, have a good look. Crazy looking thing. A finished item. Got a raw clip here in the corner. Got the credit to Terry. Found it on the 5th of September, so this is literally yesterday this was found. Very fresh find, this one. There's the details. Sol 4551. Opportunity rover. And there it is. Now, very odd indeed. Could it just be a coincidence? Yes. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. Mainly because of this detail here around the mouth. We have teeth, a nose, although rather flat, an eye, and an eye here, but also some kind of weird stick. It's almost like this thing's been kind of hit with an axe or something, right in the head. That's very odd. Now, I don't quite understand why this would come up like this. Very odd indeed. Now, the question is this a carving? It could well be. There are many in the area, not so many in this part of Mars, but in Gale Crater there are loads of them. And some of them do look quite similar to this. Now pay attention to this rather rectangular mouth and kind of rectangular teeth kind of going on here. Look at the detail in there. I was very careful with this not to add any detail that isn't there. I basically selected round it and then turn the colour temperature up so you could see it against the black and white background. Let's go back a bit. But all that detail is in the image. If you look at the raw image here, you can see the mouth detail. If you look carefully, you can see these teeth. And it comes around like this, and it's quite kind of rectangular. Very strange. It looks to me stylized, like a stylized carving. Now, it may not be, of course. It's maybe some kind of weird helmet or head, I don't know. I can't be 100% about any of this stuff, of course. This is speculation. It's not illegal to speculate, as some people have hinted. Now, what it did remind me of is this. Now, this was found in Gale Crater at the Dingo Gap, right by the fake sand that we found in the image years ago. It was sent to me by Charles Myers. I published this in 2017. Now, this is a little dark also, but if you look carefully, this is a head, a carved head. You've got an ear, or some kind of emblem here. You've got an eye here, an eye here. The nose has been broken off, just there. You can see where the nostrils would have been, just there. There's two black bits there. And a very rectangular mouth with very rectangular looking teeth structures. Very similar. As soon as I saw this one that Terry found, it reminded me of this immediately, and looks very similar indeed. Now, this is very strange, this thing. It's a little bit dark. I don't know if it gets any brighter. Let me play that through a little bit. But you can actually see when it goes negative, the eyes and the nose more clearly. You can see that nose quite clearly now, and the mouth coming round. It's kind of rectangular, very similar. So we have a very similar looking thing, although not the same. It has similarities. Here it is in context, this one. There it is. And that's raw. In fact, it looks pretty good raw. We don't have to enhance this much. It's a little dark because of the shadowing. It's a bright sunny day on Mars here. But look around the mouth. We've got that rectangular mouth. The head isn't the same shape, of course, but there are some similarities. So that was cool and interesting, I thought. And that I found loads of statues similar to this as well. I mean, I must have found over 100 now. Some of them may actually be encrusted and fossilized heads that have been covered in mud and clay and hardened, but I think a lot of them are statues. But we do have both, and generally the statues are more stylized and more strange looking, although some of the heads I've found and skulls are very odd indeed and very elongated and have huge eye sockets, and some of them have shark-like teeth, some of them have rather square teeth like this and strange features. But there we are. Let me show you the other folder I've got with what looks like the harpoon. For want of a better term, it looks a bit like a machine gun, looks a bit like a harpoon. Take your pick. Let me show you the finished meme here. There we are. Found by Terry Burnett, 28th of November 2018, so not that long ago, but not quite a year. There we are. I mean, what is it? Now, also, not only do we have this, you can see it quite clear in the raw image there. It's one of those things that stood out because it's on a ridge line, on top of a ridge line. Now, usually we find things at the bottom of the ridge lines because they fall down or were buried and there's been erosion. So this is unusual to see something like this. But if you look at the enhancement here, let's look at the raw part of the image. It's a bit fuzzy. There we are. Now, it's got what looks like a barrel on the end here, and something kind of supporting it here. Very interesting. There's not a huge amount of detail here. It's a bit of a long way off. I would say it's about 30 to 40 feet away from the rover, and it's quite high up on a ridge that's about how far up? Let me have a look. Have I got it here? Yes, I have. Now, credit to Neville Thompson for this. Another nice Gigapan from him. MSL 1454, you can Google it or follow the links down below. Here it is in context. It's right up here on the top of this ridge, and the rover is obviously down the bottom here looking up. We're looking at the ridge at least, but there's some strange stuff in here, and not only have we got that up there which looks like a gun, It looks like a machine gun with a belt feed or something coming off the side of it, almost. Or a harpoon, as some people have suggested. And you can even see that there's a thicker part to the, you've got the barrel here, and the sort of thicker part here. And then it comes back. Maybe partially buried as well. There may be some more stuff going on under this sand and crap here. Very interesting. So, there we are. I mean, whew, yeah, what is this? I'll probably get, this video will probably get into trouble just for suggesting it might be a weapon of some sort. But, you know, I'm only showing what's there. You know, this is a bit darker. I've darkened it a bit so you can see it a bit more clearly here. Look at the detail, and if you look at it carefully, it doesn't look like just a shard of rock or hardened clay. I mean, a lot of this stuff looks a bit like slate, but this is actually mudstone, a lot of it, and clays that have hardened and eroded and split. They've been split by the freezing and then the warm temperatures. The temperature changes, and then bits are broken off. But there's a very square part here. This is very, very rectangular. Something odd going on here. And some people have suggested that some of these are bunkers and military bunkers and stuff like that. I think some of them probably could be. I think a lot of these are burial mounds as well, some of these ridges. There's loads of crazy shapes and objects lying around them. Some of them are statues, some of them are objects. All sorts of things have been found, and you've only got to look through my channel to see that. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of strange things have been found. So there we have it. I mean, it actually looks like a barrel. It doesn't look like just a piece of rock sticking out. It looks like a barrel, and this kind of looks rounded. You look at the shadowing on it, and it looked to me like a more intact version of something else that I found. I didn't find this, but something I found a while back, which I've got here. Have I got it up here? There it is. Now, this is facing the other way. But it looks like, now, I did a video about this, and I called this a door lock mechanism, I think I called it. Let's have a look up here. I've got the video. There it is. It's called Mars Door Mechanism Found, Bolt Lock Structure. Now, I'm beginning to wonder whether this is actually a door mechanism now, and I'm beginning to think this may actually be what seems to be an eroded and broken machine gun. Look at it. Look at it carefully. It's facing the other way. We have all these details, including bolts and parts to it. Let me show you a close-up of that. Right, you've got these bolts and parts to it here, with a part coming through here that actually goes through this larger part. Now, what would a machine gun look like if you dropped it in the bottom of a lake and left it for thousands of years or hundreds of years maybe, or longer? And then the lake dried out, exposing it. It looks like it's been stuck in the mud and clay here. And then the water's evaporated, leaving it showing. And some of the mud and clay is eroded. And this thing's corroded. It's all the same sort of colour. But in fact, when you enhance it, it's quite reflective, this thing. If you go in. Look at the details. We got this here, whatever that is, some kind of bolt or mechanism sticking through this. We've got a bolt here. This is a bolt action. Now, some machine guns have a bolt action on them are spring loaded. Some are gas powered, some are spring powered, you know, on Earth. Very interesting. Now look at this. Look at this bolt here. Now you can't tell me that this is just a rock. But with this, look at this object coming through it. It actually goes through. So this is a mechanism that's heavily eroded and broken, and was dropped in the bottom of a lake by the looks of it. It may even be, under here, may even be something else attached to this, like a tripod or a vehicle even, a boat, or a truck, or some other kind of vehicle. Who knows? Vehicles have been found on Mars. You can see them on my channel. So, very interesting stuff here. There is also, I mean, Terry's found lots of other things as well. There was this thing which he found a while back, I think last year. It may have been last year or earlier this year. Yeah, it was last year, 2018. So he was the guy that found the little miniature mummy on Mars. So he's been finding some very, very important finds here. And has made quite a major contribution to this work, I would say. So that was interesting. And there was that, these UFOs that he spotted in Gale Crater, rod UFOs. Now this was back in May of this year. So these are mostly quite recent finds. These are crazy. These are crazy. So full credit to Terry on that as well. He found these as well. I mean, he's found some really cool stuff. Here's his original post, the fact of the what looks like a harpoon or whatever it is. And of course, it may be an optical illusion, this. But when you have other things in the area, like guns and weapons and tanks and vehicles and boats and stuff, then you've got to start looking at these things with a little bit more skepticism and perhaps an open mind. So yeah, this was found in November. Okay, there's the original clip from the Facebook group. So there we have it. I mean, the thing that really caught my eye, apart from this, was this square here, this rectangle. What is it? And there's lots of weird stuff going on there. There's some sort of thing underneath this as well, like a. I don't know if you can see that under there. It's like a head with teeth. It's very dark. Let's have a look on the Gigapan. It's really odd. I mean, there are some really crazy things here. Where's the Gigapan? There we are. If you look underneath in the shadows. Now, of course, when these images are color corrected into blue like this, it's hard to see into the shadows. So you've really got to brighten this stuff up. But there's something in there. This object, this sort of ovoid object here. Very odd. But it's so shadowy, it's almost impossible to say what it is. And of course, these images are quite low res to start with, and then they downgrade them. And people like Neville, Thompson and myself and others try and actually put them together and brighten them up so that you can actually see what's going on in these images. They're quite grungy. When you look at the raw images, they're very grungy indeed. And it's not easy, so fair shout to Neville Thompson for all the work he does. He also works tirelessly going through all these images and making gigapans out of them. And look around here, there's some weird structures here. This is kind of like a rectangular structure, almost like part of a bunker, you know. I mean, could this be the remains of some kind of military installation here? Some people have suggested it, including me, in the past. And there's all these ridges and there's lots of weird structures here, like there was a building here. You see this? Like a partition. As if there was a partition wall there, which is kind of heavily eroded. So there's something going on, and there's sections to it as well. So could this be some kind of military installation here that's heavily eroded and covered in sand? The sand's all drifted up against it. And it's all kind of eroded down, and there's all these kind of rectangular uprights and stuff. I mean, this is odd. This doesn't look like just a random ridgeline to me. There's too much symmetry here. This looks like a wall here, coming along here. And often you find statues and weird things below these ridges and structures. There aren't too many in this image because we're missing the lower part of it here. But this looks like an old bunker or something. And of course, the bunker, if these were bunkers, or this was a kind of structure, it could have been dug into the rock anyway. I mean, that's exactly what bunkers do. So there we are. Is it a bunker with the remains of a machine gun on top of it? Is this gun similar to this one? which I call the door mechanism. In fact, I did hint in this video that it may be a machine gun, and I showed a picture of it. In fact, here we are. But of course, he mentioned anything to do with guns on YouTube now, and you get into trouble. Very similar, I would say, to one of these, which is like an M2. Very similar in shape. It's got the rectangular part at the back. It's got the barrel, and you've got all these bolts and sort of mechanisms to it. And if you imagine this, something like this that's been heavily eroded or dropped in a lake or just left to erode for thousands of years or hundreds of years, you got covered in mud and crap and whatever, and then it's eroded away. That's what we're looking at. That is what we're looking at. Okay, that's what it looks like to me. I also compared it to this door mechanism. It does look a bit like this, but if you take a gun apart, a machine gun, you would get parts in it which look similar to this anyway. It's a similar kind of technology here we're looking at. So there we are. So do check out these other videos. I'll put links to those. This has been going on rather a long time now, so I think I'll probably call it a day. Let's have another quick look at that before we go. I'll put a couple of clips of these in at the end anyway for you. Let's have another look at that, because this was interesting and it does look similar to some of the other ones that I found. In Gale Crater especially. Very interesting. Now, could this be a fossilised head? Or is it carved? That's the question. Not really enough detail to say either way, but it's very interesting either way, and interesting to speculate on these things. It's not illegal, not yet. They're trying to make it illegal, especially on platforms like this. So there we are. Interesting stuff. So thank you for watching, everybody. Great credit here to Terry Burnett. If you're interested in this stuff, go along to Mars X-Files on Facebook. Very good group. They've got nearly 24,000 members now. It's free to join up. You just click on it and then they'll let you join, I think. And I'm also one of the adjudicators for this page as well. So I help him out sometimes, and a real gentleman, and some fine work he's done over the years. And I mean, the Rod UFOs were really crazy. I've got a clip of those. Let me just show you a quick clip of those a minute. I've got them in here. Let's have a look at them. Now, these appeared in Gale Crater momentarily for only a few seconds, if that. And there was a black one and a white one, which may actually be the same object. I think the black one appeared first up here, and then the white one appeared down here, which is hidden behind this. Down here, lower down. It's behind the rover, right? Sneaking up behind it. And I think it's the same one that actually changed from black to white. So they're changing in luminosity. And it's like a baseball bat shape. Now, of course, there have been other UFOs spotted in the area, and NASA say that they're cosmic rays. What, black cosmic rays that look like baseball bats flying through the air? Yeah, right. Yeah, well done, NASA. Great stuff, yeah. Woohoo. Marvellous, yeah. Round of applause for that. Brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant. Yeah, great. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.